Good morning. There's been quite a few changes since I was last sat down with the Vice-Chancellor of Loughborough University back in April. COVID restrictions have eased, a new term has started, and I'm wearing a new tie. I'm Callum Park, and me and LSU Media are delighted to say joining us today is the new Vice-Chancellor of Loughborough University, Professor Nick Jennings, Companion of the Order of the Bath and a Fellow of the Royal Academy of Engineering. Vice-Chancellor, welcome and thank you for joining us in what has no doubt been a busy opening period for you.
Yes, it's been a really exciting first 3 weeks. I've learnt lots and met lots of people and look forward to discussing that with you.
Fantastic. So much to get through and not a huge amount of time to do it, but I'm firstly keen to tap into your personal experiences. You were the first person in your family to get a university education, and you've said how much that benefited you throughout your life. But I'm keen just to hear, what were you like as a student?
So I like to think I was a good mix of conscientious and also making the most of the opportunities that university offered. So as you said, I was the first member of my family to go. So I wasn't completely sure what I should do when I went to university. I was very passionate about the subject that I studied. So I studied computer science and I got really into artificial intelligence. So I really enjoyed my course. And then outside course, I would say I played quite a lot of sport. I played football and cricket for the university. But actually I made lots of friends, and sort of many of my closest friends now are the friends that I met at university.
You've had an illustrious career since that sounds like a seemingly very successful university career. When you were announced as Loughborough's next Vice-Chancellor, you were Vice Provost for Research and Enterprise and Professor for Artificial Intelligence, I hope I got that right, at Imperial College London. And previously you had prestigious roles at the University of Southampton and with the UK government. But this is your first Vice-Chancellorship, which is a daunting task for anyone, let alone Loughborough, a top 10 university. So I'm keen to hear, why Loughborough and why make the step up now?
I think they're two important questions. So actually I felt ready to do it. So I've sort of been a PVC or a Vice Provost for Research and Enterprise for 5 or 6 years, and sort of those are about the rough length of time that you do. I think those roles are best done for. So I felt ready to make that step up, and I was looking around at a number of institutions, and actually the one I was really, really excited about was this one, Loughborough. And that's because it is a fantastic institution, as you say, top 10 in all the National League tables. And moreover, I thought it was an institution that actually fitted me and what I wanted to do and my experience particularly well. So I thought it's an institution that I could make a difference to with my experience.
You are, of course, here joined by your family. Your wife, Jo, has had a very successful career in her own right, and your 2 children, one of whom is still studying at university, and your daughter, who works in local government in the East Midlands, I believe. Yeah. And of course, you've recently moved here as well, so you've integrated yourself into the local community. But how important is that kind of community integration with the university, making sure the university plays an active role in the community around it?
So I've very much enjoyed personally coming to this area. It's a new area for us as a family, and sort of, as you say, I'm gradually integrating into it and sort of finding out the really interesting areas. So I'm experiencing that personally, but as an institution, I think it is really important for us to be a key part of our neighbourhood, this local area. We are in an area where we are we are the biggest employer, and that's good, I think, for this neighbourhood, for this community, but it also brings certain responsibilities with it, and I'm very keen that we work together both locally and regionally in order to make the most of the opportunities that we can. So.
In the first 3 weeks of your role, you've, of course, as is probably expected, you've been out and about with students and staff, and you've said that they've been very welcoming, and hopefully you've made a comfortable transition into leadership. But obviously this is a big step up, I think, for anyone, even with someone of your incredible experience. Did you ever have any doubts or concerns? Did you ever kind of stop yourself and think about the challenge that was ahead of you? Did you ever have any kind of thoughts or worries coming into the job?
I think going into any new job, you always slightly worry about what's it going to be like, how will I be able to achieve the things that I want to be able to do. So I thought about those areas. I thought about the upheaval that it would cause to my life, but actually I really wanted to do that, and I felt ready to do that. So I wasn't overly worried. There was uncertainty, but there's always uncertainty in the new job, and for me it's something I've wanted to do for a while. I've wanted to run a top class university like this, and so the excitement outweighed some of the worries I might have had.
We spoke to your predecessor, Vice Chancellor Professor Robert Allison, back in April, and we spoke about what advice he'd received as a Vice Chancellor and what advice he would give to you. He said to us at the time that it would almost be inappropriate for him to give you advice, but us knowing Bob, how we knew him, we thought that was quite far-fetched for him not to say anything to you. Did he give you any words of advice before you started the job? And I wonder if he did, whether they held true.
So Bob was very generous with his time and thoughts before I started. So both myself and my wife had a number of conversations with him at my request. So Bob wanted, I think in saying that, to be very clear that he didn't want to impose his views and his thoughts, but he was very generous with his time in speaking to us and answering our questions. So it was sort of us asking questions rather than sort of him giving advice, and it was really useful. Obviously Bob had a fantastic experience here, did great things for the university, and it's a real pleasure for me to be coming to an institution that is on the up, that is well run, that is financially sustainable, and a lot of that is down to Bob's leadership. So he gave me some advice. I might not talk about all of it, but some of the key bits that he mentioned were really sort of getting out and about, and I think one of the things that that really stood out about his leadership was actually the way he was known on campus by both the staff and the students, and sort of he really emphasized that he built up some fantastic links between staff and students. Personally, he knew a lot of people, he was very visible, people would know him, and sort of that is something I'm very keen to carry on with, I would say. I think it's an important part of leadership that's sometimes neglected, being out and about on our campuses and being seen and just chatting with people to see what's going on.
And that quite neatly leads us to my next question, actually. And one noticeable change, perhaps, from your predecessor is that you're very virtually vocal on Twitter and very public about how you're out and about as a Vice Chancellor. Of course, you've no doubt had leadership roles before, but this might be perhaps something different. How would you describe your leadership style?
Yes, so this is I've just joined Twitter, so despite being a computer scientist, I'm very familiar with these technologies, particularly as they were sort of coming through. I have only just joined Twitter, so I'm learning about the delights of it. I think it's important for someone in a leadership role to be seen, and so that people have some idea of what you're doing, and that you're not just stuck in the main building on campus all the time. That you're out meeting staff, you're meeting students, you're finding out about the university and the things that I want to promote. So that's why I committed to being on Twitter and to talking about what I do and what I want to do. So in terms of style, I would say I like to listen. So I like meeting people, I like meeting new people and sort of hearing their views. I really do like to hear a diverse set of views, and I'm very happy for people to agree and disagree with my views on particular things. And I really enjoy that sort of engagement part of it. And so I think that sort of listening, engagement, thinking carefully about the next phase of where we want to go to is a key part of my leadership style.
And just thinking about phases and where you want the university to go, in the time since we wrote these questions and put them to you and today, events on campus have focused a lot on things such as sexual misconduct and spiking, and you've taken a very proactive stance with that, as have Loughborough Students' Union, and has already shown there evidence of a strong collaboration between the two. I'm sure you'll want to work on perhaps more positive issues in the future.
I hope so.
Yes, as do I. And you've met Freya Mason, the Students' Union President, and her executive team across the square. And now you're working with them to tackle important issues on campus. And I'm curious to understand whether the Students' Union is different in its model from what you've experienced before, and how important do you think they will be in your role as Vice-Chancellor?
So I've been at a number of universities now in the UK, and I think the partnership model that we have here is the strongest that I've seen out of all of those institutions I've been at. I feel there is a genuine partnership with the union and other bits of student representation as well. So I've met the chairs of the hall committees, and I've met the school presidents in my time, and I feel that sort of engagement and partnership with all the student bodies, so the union, the presidents and the hall committees, are really an important part of the Loughborough experience. And I think sort of I'm keen to do that. I'm doing way more of that than I have done in my previous roles, which I think have been a bit less student facing, but I think it's a differentiator for us. I think having built up those relationships, I'm keen to nurture them, keep them going, so that we can all work together. We are all at the same university, the staff and the students, and I want us to really feel part of that community together and to do things together in partnership.
Fantastic. And part of it, I suppose, the Loughborough University's big draw and big appeal is sport, which is something you are, of course, very keen on. I personally think it's a great shame we hired a West Ham fan, but then I'm a Norwich fan, so I can't criticise.
So you have no legs to stand on, I'm afraid.
All. No, absolutely not. And you were, until this summer, a keen cricketer, and you had trials with Aston Villa in your youth. So sport is something we can perhaps expect to stay on the agenda, and there will be some legacy left by your predecessor with the estates plan, which will rumble on during the start of your tenure at least. But you've previously said that you'd like to see a greater impact in research and a wider international profile for Loughborough. Why are these in particular your priorities, and how do you think we can achieve them?
So I think a lot of our success as an institution has been built upon education and student experience, and that's a fantastic thing to do, and so I don't want to diminish that or detract from that in any way. That is the foundation on which the institution is built, and our successes over recent years have been predicated. But I'm keen to round out our offering, so to really make sure that the research and innovation and the profile and brand that we have across the whole institution matches what we are able to do around student experience and education. I feel there's a bit of a way to go in that regard, so I think there's some headroom in order to bring the level of performance of the institution up on research and innovation side to where it is on the education and student experience side. And I think that will make us a stronger university as a whole. I mean, universities are about education, but also what distinguishes institutions such as this is also our research, and how the research and education go together in research-led education. So I'm keen for us to do more of that. I'm keen to have some cross-university themes that really help focus where we're trying to go, so that we can stand out from the crowd in a number of areas, perhaps broader than sport, to include other aspects of our real strengths in research and innovation.
Fantastic. And another thing and I suppose a key theme you've mentioned there is diversity, and that's something that I'm sure you're more than aware of is very important, and it's something you've championed in the past. But there perhaps was some concern among the student population that the university had hired, and I mean this in no disrespect to yourself, a straight white man. Mm-hmm. What does diversity mean to you in terms of both demographic and opportunity, and how does it benefit Loughborough?
So as we've said, I was the first in my family to go to university, so I also came from a low participation neighbourhood, and I was really able to see how that transformed my life. And what I'm keen to make sure is that everyone who wants to come to university, from whatever their background, whatever their characteristics are, is able to benefit from a university experience, so that we have a diverse population here, that when they're here they have a good time and that they leave with a positive view on the institution. For me, that's where it comes from. And I think a diverse institution with diverse staff and diverse students is both a more effective institution. It will make us better, it will make us stronger, and it's also the right thing to do from a social perspective. Universities are fantastic types of institution, and I think our institution should reflect the society in which we operate.
Fantastic. And one final question we've rattled through, and just one final question for you, and I don't mean to tempt fate here at all, and of course I'm sure you'll have a long and very successful tenure here.
I hope so.
Yes, as do I. Do you have any goals or aspirations or anything kind of on the list that you'd like to achieve, hopefully many years from now, but do you have any set goals or targets coming into the job?
So there are some areas that I would like us to dial up and to build upon the strengths that we have. So we've spoken about research and innovation. That is really important to me, that we really make progress on that, and that becomes as strong as our education and student experience. I want our international profile to be broader. We have fantastic international profile in some areas, and in some regions of the world. I'm keen to broaden that, and I'm keen that we also have a strong organisational culture that really does let everyone flourish when they're here. Personally, I would also ask the team that I can appear on the cricket square that's just over there, and that someone, male or female, will bowl some cricket balls at me.
That's excellent. One final question, I suppose this was a slight surprise question actually. I suppose VC Bob was known by that name, VC Bob. Did you have any preference for a nickname at all, or something that you'd be happy for the students to lovingly refer to you by? Or
I don't have a view. I'm sure Bob didn't choose that nickname for himself, so I'm sure something will emerge, hopefully something not too bad that I can live with.
Excellent. Vice-Chancellor, it's been fascinating to hear your thoughts and insight, and I'm sure I speak for everyone, both students, staff and alumni like myself, in wishing you all the best during your tenure, however long that may be. Thank you for joining us. And of course, thanks to you as well watching. We appreciate you sticking with us, and we hope it's been as insightful for you as it has been for us. Take care.